So the first presentation this morning involves a project that started in the law school, right, with Stuart Schwab and Deb. And they are going to present the genesis of the program. And guys in the audience, hey, folks in the audience, please simmer down. I know it's exciting. Everybody, here we go. Okay, so Deborah and Kirsten, take it away. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming to this session where we're going to discuss the Bank of America Institute for Women's Entrepreneurship at Cornell. My name is Kirsten Barker. I'm the program director, and I'm joined by Professor Deborah Streeter, who is our faculty director. Before we dive in, this is kind of a fireside chat format, and we really want to keep it engaging for everybody. So we don't have any PowerPoint slides. We have a couple of videos that we're going to want to play for you. But really, as we discuss the program, we want you to feel free to raise a hand if you have a question or a comment, and really kind of keep this into a conversational way of explaining the program.
Yeah, actually, Kirsten, let me just remind the audience for the first time, we are live streaming a good chunk of this day. So if you have a question, which we definitely want to hear your questions, raise your hand and we'll get you a mic. That's important, not so much for us in the room, but for the people on the live stream. Okay, so please wait for your mic before you ask a question.
Or I guess just scream. There's some fast facts about the program. We are funded by a gift from Bank of America. The program launched in 2018 with the intention of bringing 5,000 women through an online free 12-week certificate in entrepreneurship that would be provided by the eCornell learning platform. To date, we have enrolled over 100,000 students, and I say students, yeah, it's amazing, because from the beginning of the program, we've accepted anyone of any gender, so we've had men and non-binary folks complete the program as well. But that likely makes this the largest and most successful entrepreneurship program at Cornell that you've probably never heard about. And we will talk about why that's the case and a little bit more about the program. But first, we wanted to bring you some voices from students who've actually completed the program. Yeah, this is bad.
So we're gonna play a little bit of a mashup. And what I want you in the audience to think about while you're listening is what do you hear that you also resonate with as things that are important for early startup companies?
I can say without a doubt that the Women's Entrepreneurship Certificate Program gave me a massive amount of confidence to go ahead and make the hiring decisions that I needed to make in order to be able to scale my business successfully and be able to delegate so that I can have a better work-life balance and show my children what it's really like to my business. I really don't think that I would be getting ready to hire my first employee this month if I had not taken this program and gained that confidence.
Biggest insights came during the financial module of the program, and I really learned the importance of being able to project and create those financial projections, and then going back and evaluating the performance. So not only looking forward, but also looking back and saying, how well did I do against my projections? And then being able to fine tune those projections over time.
But the biggest takeaway that was really important and eye-opening to me was that we had been marketing our product the wrong way. We had been focused more on the product as opposed to our customer's pain point. And also, we didn't really know our customer. So once we did a deep dive into getting to know our customer and actually what that person looks like, we were able to develop a marketing plan and be strategic about how we market our product.
So in this program, the program not only gave me a chance to learn things, it also gave me an opportunity to teach the things that I learned. So an important takeaway from the program was about a founder agreement checklist. as my partners who are my friends, we didn't, a lot of my things were not formally articulated. Things were taken as understood, and many things about the company were, we started taking things for granted. So this came as a big realization to me while doing the program.
Very first day of the program happened to be on the same day that I gave birth to my fourth child. And I'm so excited to get started. I had my baby with me and I was watching all the video modules from my hospital bed and diving right in. And I'm so glad that I did. There was a lot that I took away from this program. I definitely got to expand my marketing knowledge. I also really got to learn about some of the numbers side of the business that I wasn't particularly familiar with, and creating a business plan, and also, running those projections and really making sure that the numbers stood up.
Okay, so I haven't been on faculty since 2019, but I feel like a teacher in this room. And so I'm going to ask people from your experience, there's a lot of experience in the room. And I'm wondering, people, I'm willing to cold call if I have to, Steve. I know a few of you. I'm just wondering what you heard that you're like, oh yeah, that's going to make a difference in their business or in their success in entrepreneurship. Anybody? Yes. Yep. Formalizing founder agreements. That's part of the legal setup that Celia Begonis created in her sort of checklist of how to go through setting up your business the right way. There was another hand here. Yeah. Say a little bit more. Right, and so the first course is all about customer discovery, and it's about understanding the problem, not just, your technology, but really understanding the problem and what motivates people to buy. So that's another good one. Anybody else? Yes, Steve. Building financial models, and that's the module that Susan Fleming built that allows them to sort of build out that model and then figure out like, what is the right match for me in terms of funding sources. These by and large are, and Kirsten's going to talk a little bit more about this, but these are not venture headed businesses for the most part. They tend to be smaller, early startup businesses. In June? Absolutely. And if they don't do that, they can make a lot of bad decisions, even in the early days, that, even a successful company can fail if they don't understand cash flow, right? So we're going to move on from this video. We'll have two others that will intersperse with our kind of conversation. Sorry for grabbing the, sometimes people talk more when you're like close to them.
No, I think it was great. Let me do a little curriculum overview and explain the way the program works. Yep. So for those of you who aren't familiar with kind of the way that Cornell is structured, and the way that this specific certificate program is structured, it's kind of aligned with a lot of the other certificate programs that are offered through Cornell. In this case, there are 6 courses that the students sign up to take. In case any of you have ever done what we call a MOOC, a massive open online course, like through Udacity or Coursera, this is not the same layout. With those courses, it's kind of the wild, wild west of learning. You sign up and you're one of a bazillion people and you go through or you don't, and it doesn't matter. In this case, the students sign up for the 6 courses. There's a designated start date, a designated end date. There are cohorts of about 150 to 200 people in each class. We have human facilitators, and that's really a differentiator with Cornell. So there is an expert that's involved in each class that works with the 200 students and will provide feedback in the discussion forums so that they're getting maybe recent articles that are related to the topics being covered or answering questions that are coming up in the forum. And then each of the 6 courses also have a course project that are associated with it And it's a course project that really ties into the business that the students are building. So this is material that they can then complete and download and take with them. And the facilitators are folks that do this for a living. Like they're out there doing consulting with small businesses, and they're providing real feedback on their financials and real feedback on their legal issues and their customer discovery issues. So there is a very personal touch to this program. If the students complete all 6 courses in the program, they earn a certificate from Cornell. And in terms of staffing, we have 10 facilitators that work with the program. They are all wrangled by Cornell. But in terms of the Institute, we have 1 full-time staff member, and that's me. We have our faculty director, Deb, and we have Stuart Schwab, who is somewhere out in the audience. There he is, who is former dean of the law school, who is our executive director. As I mentioned in the beginning, our initial expectation was to bring 5,000 students through, and that is now 20x what we anticipated.
I want to give a more formal recognition of my co-authors in this program. And so I'll go through the 6 areas. You know, when I was trying to think about this curriculum, I've had quite a long history of talking with entrepreneurs, understanding an entrepreneur. I had started my own company, and I'm like, what do people need at the very beginning of the process? So I identified basically these 6 areas. One is like readiness and customer discovery. So that is, do you have the right team around you? And also, have you ever talked to a customer and said, what is your real problem? That's a course that I taught. Then laying the legal building blocks was put together and authored by Celia Begonis, who's now the founder and director of the Blasberg Rice Center for Entrepreneurship in the law school. And many of the students say that the checklists and tools that she provided were just like invaluable, really amazing. Then I thought, of course, they have to understand, you know, because there's so much misunderstanding about how what funding source is right for you. We had to do that. And that was authored by Susan Fleming, who at the time was in the hotel school as a faculty member. And now she's an entrepreneur in residence and a speaker. And then because of the era we were entering when we created this program, I'm like, yeah, we need something on product development, digital marketing. And Tasha Lewis from the Department of Fiber Design and Apparel, now unfortunately she's moved to Ohio State, was really important. And then I also think leadership in a new company is very different from going to be in a leadership development in a corporate environment. So we did 1 course on entrepreneurial leadership and growth done by Risa Mish, who's not here today because she's doing something at Google. She's training people at Google on leadership, I guess. She's the Day Family Senior Lecturer in Business Ethics in the Johnson School. Did I leave anybody else? And then the final course, the 6th course, is all about communication. And that is a little bit about entrepreneurial presence, negotiation, pitching, those kinds of things. So now I want to shift gears and ask the audience another question. And I just want you to kind of shout out your answer. So as Kirsten said, we've enrolled more than 100,000 since launched in 2019.
2018,
2019. What's your guess about how much marketing we spent over that time? What kind of marketing costs would it take to enroll that many students, participants? Just yell out a number. Cheater. Sure, for the live stream, we have several people who said 0. Anybody think it would cost something to get 100,000 people into a program? $100,000, $500,000 to $1 million. We anticipated we'd be doing a lot of marketing, but as it turns out, we didn't do any. So friend here in the front was right about that. We spent 0. And so Kirsten's going to talk a little bit about that, how that happened.
Yeah, so our website was live and it went viral without our knowledge. And within the first 48 hours that it was live, we filled all 5,000 spots in the program going out, I think, 18 months, and a wait list for 10,000 people in 48 hours. Yeah, which was absolutely amazing. We went back to the bank and said, good news, bad news. And they expanded their funding to support 20,000 students, then 50,000 students, then 100,000 students. And all along the way, we have had to kind of control the spigot of allowing people in because we get deluged every time we're open for enrollment, which is probably why you haven't heard about this program. If you haven't, it's because we were in basically a media blackout for the first 2 years of the program. We couldn't really talk about it because we didn't have the ability to offer spots to students. We went viral, and this shouldn't necessarily be a surprise for folks in the room who are engaged with entrepreneurs. We went viral through social media groups focusing on minority women entrepreneurs. Those are traditionally Black women and Hispanic women, the fastest growing subgroups of small business owners. And what that meant, and actually it went viral through Facebook at first, and then eventually Instagram and TikTok. What that meant was we were initially 85% Black women in the program. That morphed a little bit in 2021 when we introduced the entire curriculum in Spanish. So that increased our Hispanic percentage a bit. So we now stand at about 82% Black women, 9% Hispanic, 6% white, 2% Asian. In terms of where folks are located, I know we had one of our speakers from Nepal, but 96% of the folks in the program are based in the US, all 50 states represented, as well as Puerto Rico and DC. And of the 4% that are international, over 150 countries are represented. Our students range in age from 18 to 82, but 75% fall in the 30 to 40-year-old bracket. 85% of the companies are for-profit. And in terms of the educational background of our students, 75% have college or graduate degrees, but 25% have a highest level of education of high school or GED. So quite a wide variety of students that we're educating. And for many people, their first experience with a university and a university like Cornell.
I think, is this a good time to see if anybody has a question? Are there any questions? We'll have other times as well. Yes, in the back.
Hi, good morning. Quick question. You mentioned the funding. Can you speak a little bit about the dynamic around funding in terms of how that funding is structured for these individuals?
Yeah, there's no funding for the businesses. Bank of America underwrites their tuition for being in the program. Does that make more sense? Okay. So there's no funding affiliated with it. This was a gift Bank of America gave. Cornell competed for offering the program, got that gift, and we, this is one of the appeals of the program is the participants do not pay.
And the retail value of a typical eCornell certificate program is in the $3,500 to $4,000 range. So, when they look at the value of what they're getting, it's quite something for the certificate.
I wonder, yes, go ahead.
How long does it take the students to go through the program?
12 weeks.
12 weeks.
The 6 courses, each course is 2 weeks long.
I mean, I think one interesting things about Modern Life is that they can also, because they're segmented in 2-week segments, they can take them pretty much in any order. And if they're having a baby or doing something, they could shift to another. It's very plug in and plug out the way it has been structured, which turned out to be highly valuable for women's lives, but also for anybody with any gender identity who's living in the modern world where things happen in your life. So I think that flexibility has made a big difference as well.
And we have this little thing called COVID in the middle of it too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I think if there's no other questions right now, maybe it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about like the kind of businesses that we're looking at.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we launched the program, I think there was this anticipation among the bank funders that we were all of a sudden going to come up with these cohorts of students who were looking for venture money. And as most of you all realize, 99% of business in the US is small business with 50 or less employees, and most of those businesses will never seek venture money. They're going to be grown based on personal savings and bootstrapping and reinvesting their revenue. So that was not a surprise to us, and is exactly what we found in the program. 95% of our students have 10 or fewer employees in their businesses. 92% have annual revenues of $150,000 or less. They are every industry you can imagine, but some examples would be retail food establishments, apparel, accessories, childcare centers, elder care centers, fitness studios, hair salons, accountants, veterinarians, mental health workers, healthcare workers, web designers, marketing consultants, realtors. I mean, those are all valuable businesses, but never ones that are going to be the hyper growth that VCs are looking for. And that isn't their goal. What we found is that they're focusing on building something stable that's going to guarantee a reliable income for them and hopefully eventually generational wealth. And, I read a report recently that mentioned that when you spend $100 at a local store, usually about 70 of those dollars stay within the community, whereas a box store, you're lucky if $40 stays in the community. So really what we're finding with these students is they are growing their local communities. They're creating businesses where the investment stays locally, the employment stays locally. And if we're thinking about the concept of social impact, they are making a social impact by launching and growing their businesses in their local communities.
So speaking of social impact, I'm wondering again, if we could go to the audience and I'm wondering, what do you think about when you hear the word social impact? Like what comes to mind around social impact? Yeah.
Basically impacting people around us to begin with.
Okay, so you think a little bit about proximity, right?
Yes.
The people around us, community, and yes.
So I'm thinking about something that will benefit the people, the planet, but also sustainably will be like in the long run, sustainability issues.
Any other thoughts about that?
I think about the social impact could be positive or negative.
Okay, good. It can go either direction, right? So go ahead.
When thinking about the social impact, I'm just thinking about the measurement. How can we measure the social impact correctly?
You read my mind, because that's my next question is like, because of the things that we say about social impact, we give broad descriptions, right? It's community, it's about helping. But then the question is, what are the metrics for doing, that? What could be used to evaluate the social impact of a program like this? Yes.
Perhaps quality of life standard or metrics that look at quality of life of the individuals in the community.
You could measure the quality of lives in those communities. I just want to remind you, we have one full-time employee. But I think these are really important questions, like how could we measure the social impact of a program like this? Yeah. Job creation is another one that's obviously very interesting to those who make the policy around small businesses. So that would be another one. How many people turn out to be employed? I will throw one in, which I felt as an entrepreneurship professor during my career, that it's also social impact if you prevent somebody from making the wrong decision to go into a business, because that can drain a bank account, ruin a marriage, can, ruin a lot of things in someone's life. So if some people take that first course and they're like, oh, I'm not surrounded by enough of a support structure to really start this. My goals are not aligned with what I'm willing to put into it, that kind of thing. So let's shift over, and maybe I want Kirsten to talk about some of the things beyond the curriculum that have really impacted the people in the program.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. You know, we're kind of like every entrepreneur's dream and nightmare because of going viral in the first 48 hours. And it's like that problem where, you know, you have the widget that Walmart all of a sudden wants you to deliver a truckload of and you have no supply. You know, we had 15,000 people who wanted to take the program and only a certain number of seats available. It presented us with this really interesting opportunity because now we had this free program that people had signed up for and may not be actually sitting in the class for 6, 9, 12 months out. So how do you keep those people engaged in this free program to make them show up when eventually their time is right? We had a lot of student interviews. I probably talked to a couple hundred students just to understand what their background was, what their pain points were, you know, what they were looking for. We had the opportunity to do webinars each month where we would pick a specific topic of interest and get some experts on and allow the students who were still waiting to take their course to come online for Q&A. We did surveys where we would ask the folks that were registered for the classes specific questions about like, what do you think about the phrase side hustle? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Do you have one? And get their feedback on what they thought that was. And then we would compile the results and publish it and kind of expand the conversation. But through all of those different methods, what we learned was, and I thought this was beautifully stated by one of the students who said, I so appreciate Cornell providing the opportunity for this 12-week program, and I value it. And I appreciate Bank of America funding it, so it's free for me. But you've just handed me a recipe card, which is great. But what I actually need is a bag of groceries and a commercial kitchen. I need a network and I need funding. So you've given me part of the answer to my problem, but not the whole answer. And that was really kind of a tough moment for us because we don't want to kind of leave them hanging. And yet at the same time, we're Cornell, there are limits to what we can do. So what we did for the network component was created a Facebook group, plus minus about Facebook, but that's how many of the folks came to us. So if you're a graduate of the program, you're invited to join this Facebook group. And it's kind of like, yeah, whatever, Facebook group. But actually what the students have made out of this Facebook group is a real community where they can, first of all, share their wins. You know, I was just featured on Good Morning America. I just had an article that was published in Forbes. I just had my first product placed at Walmart. And they can get the support of a community that they may not have locally because they don't have other entrepreneurs who look like them in their local hometown. It's also a place where they can ask questions. What do you ask a lawyer when you're trying to figure out who the right person is to help with your IP? Who do I have design my website? I just ran into this problem negotiating a contract. What do I do? They can kind of share solutions there. So that's really created a lovely place. And then they've subsetted it more with different chat groups. I think there's like 50 or 60 groups broken down by industry and by geographic location. So they're trying to make that work for them.
I want to jump in.
Yeah. Okay. And then with the funding piece, during COVID, there, as everybody here is aware, there was a lot of money kind of trickling down and micro grants available to help small businesses in, state areas and regional areas, city areas. So I was seeing all of this come across, as I'm sure most of you were, but the students in our program weren't. And so I would actually go into the Facebook group and say, hey, if you're in Atlanta, it looks like there's a micro grant for $1,000 if you're in this industry, And they're like, how do you find this? I was like, oh, well, I can find it. I'll put together a list. And I put together the list. And then folks were like, well, can you email this to us? Sure, I'll email it to you. So what this became over time, jokingly, they referred to it as the money mail, because it became a list of about 200 different opportunities. And it wasn't just grants. It was, pro bono consulting support. It was accelerators, incubators, pitch competitions, all the stuff that I would just find by doing Google searches. And I would email blast it out to eventually now 100,000 people once a month. And because of those opportunities and learning about those funding opportunities, what they've told me, and this is probably just a drop in the bucket, they've earned over $8 million in funding by grants, $1,000 grants, $500 grants.
Not equity.
Not equity. This is just grant funding. And this doesn't count the pro bono support and the free website design and the free technology they're getting on their own, because Cornell shared with them a list of free things that's out there anyway, but that they just didn't know existed. So we provided network, we provided some funding resources that they could then take advantage of. And then something that kind of evolved beyond that is how do we help amplify their voices? And so what we did as an institute for that was, if you're a graduate of the program, you can submit your business name and website, and I will post it on the Institute's website. And it's not like we're going to be driving a whole lot of traffic to your company, but as a business owner, you can say, hey, I finished a program at Cornell and my website is listed on the Institute page. It provides some validity for them. We also gave them the opportunity to submit a story. This is where the clips come from. When they graduate, they can share their entrepreneurial story in like 3 minutes, you know, a challenge they faced and some takeaway that they had from the program. And what that enables me to do is hear their story, which is lovely, and then use it for situations like this. But I also can pass it to the bank. And the bank, because sometimes it's easier to see a picture and hear a story than it is to read or see a PowerPoint slide. They then, when they're looking for a regional media push and, you know, I need somebody in the Southeast who runs a food truck or, you know, whatever, they can grab the video stories that I have and then go ask those people if they will be part of a print campaign or a media campaign. And we've probably had a dozen different grads who've been able to take advantage of the bank's media machine, which works for the bank, works for the student. It gives them amplified messaging that they would never be able to afford. And then they also have the opportunity, and this is more geared towards entrepreneurs who provide products. The bank will do pop-up marketplaces when they're doing like funded events, both for internal stuff and then externally facing things, doing swag bags, or invite entrepreneurs to actually set up a little marketplace of their goods where people can shop and get exposure to these companies on a level that they wouldn't necessarily have if they were just staying in their hometown. So little things we can do. It's not going to impact all 100,000, but it's ripples in the pond.
While I'm queuing this up, I hope it's going to behave. It is. Just a comment about the Facebook group. This was something that was suggested by students and participants and is run by them. Yeah. So we don't, I mean, occasionally we'll put something in there, each of us, but it's just an amazing example of how this community of young businesses are interacting with each other. So we did want to share, this is a little bit shorter clip. We did want to share some additional voices from the people in the program.
One of the greatest benefits that I derive from participating in the program is the notion of community building. To have a community, a tribe of like-minded women who understand some of the challenges that I've faced has been invaluable to me.
I have met an incredible group of women who I still stay in contact with now. And I think it's just a beautiful thing to ask women, you know, who do you use for your publisher, or which route should I use for this, or what platform do you use? I have just made some really, really great connections.
I think one of the specific takeaways from the Women's Entrepreneurship Certificate program that I got was connecting with women from all over the world. And not just from the standpoint of us all being women-led businesses or creating our women-led businesses, but the fact that I'm not alone, that there are other women out there doing exactly what I'm doing, trying to start and grow and maintain a business.
Beyond that, I think the most amazing thing about this experience has been the camaraderie that has happened afterwards, and being in the group and meeting the connections that I have met and the access to these different funding opportunities that just get posted on a daily basis has been instrumental in me, A, being knowledgeable about the opportunities, but B, holding myself accountable to actually applying and doing the work.
How are we doing on time? Okay. So one of the questions I have for the audience is, in your business, in your entrepreneurial experiences, what has the role of community been? Has it been important? What does it offer you? How have you benefited? Because this is a big theme we've heard from this group of young entrepreneurs, I will say 0 to 5 years in business. I think cold call. Yeah.
I would say that community is crucially important because then you don't have to know the answer to everything. You've got other people that you can lean on. That might be your coach or your mentor or your accountability partner, or we talk a lot about community in what I do as well. And having a group of people that you know that you can count on and rely on and reach out to for support.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that so many entrepreneurs are solopreneurs. And when you are, your everything, you have no one to ideate with. So I think when you have a group of like-minded people or people that are different from you is also super important to ideate with and to say like, no, that's actually not your target market, or no, you might be spending too much on this X, Y, and Z. It's comforting and it's helpful because we like to think we all know everything, but we don't. And so having community to think about, ideate with, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's a great one. We've got somebody up here.
We also have a question online too.
Oh, excellent. We love the online people.
I'd just like to link the whole notion of being afraid to fail, which is something that I encountered teaching entrepreneurship, with the demographic that Kirsten shared. I believe you said it's somewhere around 75% fell in the age range of about 30 to 40 years old. And that's not a young, right? Young, I mean, let me be politically correct. They're not teens and students where we always say, you have some time to fail and bounce back. And, they're that middle where I really need this to work. My family might be depending on this. And so having that community of women saying, hey, I have kids too, and I'm balancing the same thing. And so hearing another voice that says, I'm actually going through the same thing that you're going through, even though I'm halfway across the world. That level of community, I think, is so important to add support to women entrepreneurs. So,
and that is very well heard in this Facebook group and in other times when we've had the women, the participants talking to each other. So one question I have to ask you, Kirsten, is like, what if we had more resources? You never know when more resources might come. What would we do?
It's tough. I mean, we're sitting on a gold mine of data. I would love to be able to do a deeper dive with the students in the program. I would love to figure out better ways to support them. I would love to have more opportunities to do in real life meetups and virtual meetups. One of the things that we're beginning to dabble with right now is integration of some AI technology in the Cornell platform itself. The bank's program is a kind of beta test site where we're implementing a tool that helps the facilitators provide more detailed feedback in the course tools. We're still getting feedback on how body it sounds versus human. So there's still work to do there, but hopefully whatever we learn in this program will eventually be rolled out through the rest of Cornell certificate programs. And then, just updating the content. It would be great to do a little bit of a course refresh, especially, we've launched all of this before COVID. It seems like we're in a different world right now. Yeah. It would be great to kind of revisit some of that.
Yeah, let's just say the digital marketing module needs to be refreshed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some of our ideas. We're around to talk with people. We want to end with one last sequence of clips to kind of explain to you the energy and the opportunities and successes that our participants are seeing.
Hey, Deb, before you show the clip, let me ask one question. So how did this come to be, like, started with the law school? We have a university-wide model of entrepreneurship, and like, I think it'd be worth telling the story about it, how it started there.
Maybe while I'm doing tech, maybe Stuart, can you take that question?
Because when you think entrepreneurship, you clearly think law. Right. Yeah.
Well, law and everything, and entrepreneurs need to do it, so we do there. But I think it like so many entrepreneurs, it started more personally. We had prior had an Avon Center for Women in Global Justice in the law school, which had been funded through facilitated by an alum, Kim Azarelli, actually a double degree holder from Cornell, not only undergrad as well as the law school. And it was her contact And frankly, the other thing is the law school being one of the smaller units was a little more nimble, if I can use a entrepreneur-like term on this. Let's avoid some of the Cornell bureaucracy. We can do it through here. I was the former dean. I was not the dean at the time when this program started, but I had an Avon. And so not only is law an important part of it, but it was that personal connection that just led it that. We immediately and always knew that Cornell was the driver, but virtually every one of Cornell's programs needs an academic home in one of the units. And that's the explanation.
Excellent. And was there an online question that we missed? Or did I?
Yeah, I've got it right here. Monica Roy asked, is there an aspect of the program that highlights to entrepreneurs the various ongoing resources there are available to them in the form of funded accelerators out there and locating/engaging with mentors?
I would say, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, the only thing that exists in a current way is this monthly money mail that I send out, that I try to keep updated with the most recent opportunities. But the funding module itself kind of, and which actually one of the speakers that we're gonna end with kind of mentions specifically what's brought up. But the one thing I just did want to mention really quickly before Deb hits play, just kind of food for thought. One question that we're often asked is, how do you gauge success of the program? And obviously 0 on marketing, 100,000 people, like still waitlist, that kind of speaks for itself. But just kind of food for thought for everybody in the room. If I look at 2 students, and I'm using real student examples, and one student entrepreneur signs up for the program, does the 6 courses, completes them, earns a certificate, posts their digital credential on their LinkedIn profile, becomes an active member of the Facebook group, that's a win. Like, that's the golden standard, perfect student. That's what the bank wants to see as a success. That's what Cornell and Cornell want to see as a success. If we have another entrepreneur who, obviously most valuable resource is their time, shows up to the courses, decides I don't need these 3 courses because that's not where I am right now. What I really need is the legal module. I'm going to download the tool sets. Maybe I'm going to finish the course. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I participate in the discussion. We'll see. And then they get my monthly email and they get some pro bono consulting support. They bring the tool sets to the lawyer and they say, this is what I need for my IP stuff. And then they apply for a grant and they get a $10,000 grant to advance their business. And they never come back to the program and never complete the certificate, but still stay in touch with me to tell me about their wins. Is that a success? And I would say probably everybody in this room, if they had to pick an entrepreneur to work with, would work with the one that didn't complete the program. So that's a really challenging way to measure what the success and the social impact of this program is. But I would argue it's really successful on both ends of the spectrum when you look at it that way.
Now let's let them speak for themselves.
What is one really important takeaway of the many, many things that I learned and continue to try to put in practice from the Women's Entrepreneurship Certificate? Well, 2 things actually. One is to name my price without apology. My hourly rate and that of my all-female staff, well, you do not hire us now because we are cheap. You hire us because we are the best at what we do. We win on quality. Raising our rates was a morale booster internally, and in fact, it was a signal of our legitimacy externally. I'm never looking back on $100 an hour. And number 2, I'm working on building my dream team. It was really great to have the space of the Women's Entrepreneurship Program to explore the roles, experience, and psychographics of my potential partners, and also to get really clear on the firm values as we create the dream team to serve our clients and, most importantly, serve America's communities in this climate changed era. I'm incredibly grateful for my experience at the Women's Entrepreneurship Certificate Program. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And it gave me connections in the community that I never knew existed. And some of them are even right here in my own city. And so the power of a network is what really captivated me, and it's a major takeaway. So many opportunities have come from it, including my story cards taking off. I would have never had this product if it weren't for me going through the Women's Entrepreneurship Program. And the product is doing well. I launched it last month in October, and here we are now with it being featured in the Democrat and Chronicle USA Today newspaper. It's now therapist approved, It is being backed by Caress and I Fund Women. And as we speak, the cards are being prepared to give out to over 110 people at the Black Women in Media Conference in New York City tomorrow, where Dr. Bernice King will be in attendance, among other opportunities that I've gotten with this one product alone. So I'm very grateful to the Women's Entrepreneurship Program. It's really helped to catapult what I never knew was possible for my life and my journey, and even just the idea of becoming a business owner.
Like I said, I bootstrapped my company, started it in my garage, and I just wasn't able to secure funding. And so I just didn't know going into the program what other funding options were there. I just assumed that every company needed to go get venture capital. And I quickly learned through the program that there were options for small businesses. You know, there was crowdfunding, there was a friends and family round, there is grants, there's pitch competitions, there's debt. There's so many different ways that I could go towards capital. And so we did that. And since being in the program, we've secured over $40,000 in grants. We've won pitch competition, and we've used that to really grow our company from my garage to now having this amazing fulfillment center that's allowing us to really provide maximum value for our customers and for the brands that we work with. So actually, that's one of the biggest takeaways I took from the program is just learning about the different capital options that are available for small entrepreneurs like myself, going through the roadmap that they gave us, from friends and family round to grants, to pitch competitions, to debt. And we just followed that. And now we are where we are. So like, I'm so grateful for this opportunity because it really, really gave me some tools that I didn't know were available for me. So thank you so much, Bank of America. And thank you so much, Cornell. You guys have literally changed our company.
We will close with those victorious comments. Glad to talk to anybody